Thank you all. So let me try to get this done in 10 minutes. What I'm going to talk about is just one part or one the interesting area of research within our center, CDAC. We can broadly position this under human-centric artificial intelligence. So it's about emotion and emotion modeling. So just about emotions. So emotions define who we are, our individuality, our social behavior, decision making, and even the physical and mental well-being. So the work that I'm going to talk about is a brief glimpse of our emotion-related research, which could be positioned within the topic of affective computing and also human-centric artificial intelligence. To give you a bit of context, why we consider this research is really important, and especially in this current day and time. So we leave what we call digital footprints by using these, being involved in and communicating within these so-called digital communication spaces. Social media, obviously, as we all know, is really very popular, much used. And it has been found out, and there's literature to prove that behavior on the social web can be considered as a better proxy for offline human behavior than the observed control setting, which is the traditional form of where information is collected about behavior of human beings. And this information can also be aggregated in different ways, where we can identify group emotion, and also emotional atmosphere within groups. And one of the things that we have done, one of the innovations that we have done in the last few years, which has been really interesting and even adopted in a number of real life situations, is building upon the popular work on sentiment analysis and extending this and expanding into deep emotions analysis based on certain psychological theories. So our work, the work that I'm going to talk about today, is based on the Pruszczyk's wheel of emotion. I'm not sure whether any of you or some of you are familiar with this. I'm going to talk about the pre-processing of text and social media content, which is necessary to bring it into to some form that can be used, that we used in this to developing these models. But we use the Pruszczyk's wheel of emotion. It's a well-known psychoevolutionary classification of human emotional responses, and this is used as the basis of our deep emotion representation. And if you see closely, I'm not sure whether you can see it, there are 8, this provides 8 key emotions. And for each emotion, there are 3 levels within each emotion. This is based on the intensity of varying intensity within these emotions. So what you see on the right, are 4 components for emotional modeling, computational components that we have developed, where the basis, the underlying basis foundation has been the Pruszczyk's wheel of emotion. And I'll just quickly run through each of these components just to give you a bit of an understanding of what each of these looks like and the key value and the use of this. So text sources and social media goes through a number of NLP, natural language processing steps, to generate first of all the emotion intensities. And these consist of 8-dimensional, we can call it a vector. And the emotion intensities are then laid upon the Pruszczyk's wheel, which I have shown here as a radar diagram. And you can see the 8 the key emotions and the three different levels by the variation in the intensities. And on the right, of course, you are not expected to read that, but I'm showing that because there is literature, psychology, social sciences, and various theories which align well with the computational work that we have done and support our work. So there is a basis and a foundation and a relationship to existing literature. And then these emotional, the intensity profiles in the first component is used in a Markov model to generate what we call emotion transition diagram. Again, this is, I won't have time to talk about how it is done, only what it is about. So the emotion profiles or intensity profiles are, and the sequence of that they occur in, say, the social forum is taken in, and the relationship is captured in the emotion transition matrix, and using a Markov model on these are the 8 different emotions. We generate this transition diagram, and it's easier to sort of understand it or get a bit of a feel of it by looking at what a transition diagram looks like when we generate it using the 8 emotions. So what you see here on top are 3 different emotion transition diagrams for 3 different individuals. And this is actually from a real collaboration that we carried out. This project is actually complete, where some researchers from the Ontario Cancer Research Institute read one of our papers and contacted us for this collaboration. This you can see that the individuality, or there's a variation of 3 different peoples are captured here. And since we have the probabilities of the emotions coming out of this, and that comes from this emotion transition matrix, we can actually use this to predict for an individual what the most highest probability, what the next emotion or expressed could be. And this can also be used, we have aggregated this in a group scenario, and even sort of certain segments in a city scenario using social Twitter and so on, to identify group emotion and group emotion behaviors and transitions. And this is, so on the left-hand side, you see where an aggregated scenario, again, looks similar to the individual, but this is for a group or a larger segment of people. And the right-hand side, this colorful diagram, or the diagram with the colorful letters, it shows that we have presented the individuals within a group scenario in different colors. And this has been quite useful to identify where in a conversation or in some kind of social situation, the behavior, the part or the role that at each individual plays from an emotional aspect. And the clinicians and the therapists that we have worked, especially with patients, say cancer patients, or similar or mental health patients, the therapists found this quite useful, and the clinicians. Quickly moving on to the next level. So so I looked at 2 out of the 4. I've talked about 2 different components: the intensity profiles, the transition diagrams, and this is a third where it's sequences or pathways of emotion. Now, an interesting point that comes out and we are investigating at the moment is that, okay, we are all familiar with the DNA sequences, but emotion sequences, if we can actually capture to a reasonable level of accuracy and reliability, can emotion sequences bring in another dimension to represent our individuality? Perhaps even related to, say, the nature to nurture, nurture, with the impact emotion makes to all of us who we are. Perhaps nurture could be related to these. So those are interesting questions and possibilities that come out of this research. So what we've done here is that we have used the emotion alphabet. This is the 8 emotions, similar to the ACTG in the gene sequences, and generated emotion sequences. And this is an example of such pathways. You can have the blue and the red shows the positive and the negative emotions. And we have actually tied these two emotion sequence theories. And so they, for example, you had the start of the activation is the beginning of emotion expression, the ongoing emotion persistence, switching is the move of changing of emotion, and then the ending of a particular emotion expression. So we have worked on in projects where we've used this to identify different emotion trajectories, and then via frequencies, the most traveled emotion pathways and so on. So what you have seen is 2 different emotional expression pathways, where, say, on the right-hand side, it's activated as a positive and it continues as in a positive way, while in the left, the negativity is switched into or changes into positive. Now, as you will be able to imagine, this is quite useful information for in mental health forums and many other health applications, which we have worked on. And the final component, the 4th component, is overall profiling of individuals based on their the emotions and the 8-dimension vector. I mean, where the 8 dimensions come from, the Plutchik's classification. I will just move on to very quickly a minute or so. So an actual application. This is using a mental health forum. We collected this data from 3 different forums because that were anxiety forum, a bipolar forum, and a self-harm forum. But and you can and I'll show a couple of the different components. So this is the first component that I talked about: intensity profiles, emotion intensity profiles. And you see that this is for somebody with from the anxiety forum, a self-harm forum, and the bipolar. And the bipolar, you can see from ecstasy to grief, that's a very big change. While self-harm, it's the grief that's coming out, and anxiety, it's the fear and the sadness. But we have this is generated some numbers, the percentages, and you can see that self-harm, the sadness comes out very prominently. Bipolar, interestingly, the joy and the sad are the key. The 2 very different but prominent emotions. And anxiety, you can see the sadness and the fear coming out. And this is again an example for these individuals, the transition diagrams. And if we go into detail, which we don't have the time now, but we can see the individuality and the very different bipolar, anxiety, and self-harm. So what do we do? What we have here from these computational components is a way of looking at not just visualizing, but analyzing and understanding different aspects of emotion, looking at the emotion from different angles in detail, and ability to understand, analyze, and group, and so on, and of course, leading to actionable outcomes. And this is again, the transitions can be identified like this. So my final slide is that this work has actually been deployed in, so this is to develop a artificial intelligence co-facilitator with Ontario Cancer Institute, Institute of Cancer Research. And this is part of the dashboard, the user interface that's developed. It's actually deployed with on a online support group called Cancer Chat Canada. At the moment, it's actually being deployed. And another interesting outcome is that this not only this work, but some of our work, but this work that I briefly described is a core component of that, provided the innovation for 2 successful NHMRC ideas grants from La Trobe starting this year. And that has generated a lot of interest, and we are very proud to say that these provided the key innovation in these are both quite reasonably large grants with a total of over $3.5 million. And thank you very much.